Fear is not loud. That is the thing nobody tells you. You expect it to announce itself. Racing heart, cold sweat, the unmistakable feeling of standing at the edge of something dangerous. And sometimes it does. Sometimes it is exactly that dramatic. But most of the time, fear whispers. It says, not yet. It says, you're not ready. It says, what will people think? It says, what if it doesn't work? What if you try your hardest and it still isn't enough? What if you let yourself want something and you don't get it? What if you let yourself be fully, honestly seen, and the person looking decides you're not worth staying for? Most of us have been obeying that whispers for years. Today, we're going to do something about that. Welcome to the Better Life Project. Conversations for growth, purpose, and everyday life. I'm glad you're here. In this podcast, we'll explore meaningful ideas, honest conversations, and practical ways to grow into a better version of ourselves. Let's begin. Welcome back. 9 episodes now. And if you've been here from the beginning, I want you to know something. This episode is the one I was afraid to write. Not because the subject is difficult, though it is, but because writing honestly about fear requires you to admit where it still lives in your own life. The decisions you've been dressing up as wisdom that are actually, if you are honest, just carefully reasoned avoidance. I know mine. You probably know yours. I want to tell you about a man named Elliot. Elliot was a writer, a genuinely gifted one. The kind of writer whose sentences make you stop mid-page and read them again just to feel them once more. His friends knew it. His creative writing tutor at university knew it. He knew it. Somewhere underneath everything. He had a novel in him. He had carried it for 11 years. The characters fully informed, the story mapped in a notebook he kept in his bedside drawer and never opened in front of anyone. And for 11 years, he did not write it. He taught English instead, which he loved. He marked papers, ran workshops, helped other people find their voice. Good work, real work, work that mattered. But the novel sat in the drawer. When I asked him why, really why, not the official answer, he was quiet for a long time. And then he said something I haven't forgotten. As long as I don't write it, I can still be perfect. The moment I write it, it becomes real. And real things can be rejected. Real things can be read and found wanting. The dream of it is safe. The actual thing is terrifying. The dream of it is safe. The actual thing is terrifying. I want you to hold that sentence for the rest of this episode because I think it describes not just Eliot's novel, but something you have been protecting very carefully for a very long time. Let me tell you what fear actually is. Now what it feels like, what it is. Biologically, fear is ancient. It predates language, predates civilization, predates almost everything we associate with being human. It is the oldest part of your brain, the amygdala, a small almond-shaped structure that has been doing one job since before your ancestors walked upright, scanning for threats, keeping you alive. And it was brilliant at that job. In a world of predators and scarcity and genuine daily danger, the brain that fired first that felt fear fastest and responded hardest was the brain that survived. The problem is that your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a lion and a difficult conversation. It cannot distinguish between genuine physical danger and the social risk of being seen, judged, rejected, or wrong. To that ancient, loyal, well-meaning part of your brain, all of it registers as threat. All of it triggers the same response: hide, freeze, run, or fight. Which is why fear in modern life almost never shows up as fear. It shows up as procrastination, as perfectionism, as the meeting you keep postponing, the apology you keep drafting and deleting, the relationship you stay in because leaving feels more dangerous than staying, the dream you keep filing under someday. It shows up as being extremely busy with things that don't matter, as you never have to be still enough to face the thing that does. It shows up as cynicism, that particular brand of self-protection that decides to be unimpressed before anything can impress it, that decides to expect the worst so disappointment loses its power. It shows up as the joke you crack at the moment vulnerability was about to happen, the topic you change, the death you avoid, the version of yourself you present to the world that is real enough to be recognizable but never quite close enough to the truth to risk anything. Do you recognize any of that? Because I do, more than I'd like to admit. Now, here is the part I want you to hold on to. The part that changes everything. Researcher Brené Brown, after thousands of interviews with people about courage and vulnerability, arrived at a finding so simple it almost sounds like nothing. You cannot have courage without fear. They are not opposites. Courage is fear that has been felt fully and moved through anyway. The brave person is not the person who is not afraid. The brave person is the one who is afraid, knows it, names it, and walks toward the thing anyway. That is a completely achievable human act. It is not reserved for soldiers or heroes or people with extraordinary constitutions. It is available to you on an ordinary day, right now. Fear does not have to go away before you move. It just has to stop being the one who decides. I want to do something different for a moment. I want to speak directly to the fear, not to you, though you should hear this too, to it. Dear fear, I see you. I know what you are. I know you've been here my whole life, under the decision I didn't make. Inside the silence where my real opinion should have been, behind a version of myself I showed the world because showing the actual one felt too exposed. I'm not angry with you. That might surprise you. You are doing your job. You kept me safe in moments when being safe was what I needed. You kept me from some things that would have hurt me. But you also kept me from some things that would have made me. And so I want to say clearly, without drama, just honestly between us, you can stay, but you don't get to drive anymore. I feel you. I'll even listen to you sometimes. When the danger is real and you have something useful to say, but when you show up the way you usually do, dress as reason, disguise as caution, pretending to be wisdom. I'll know the difference now. And I'll go anyway. Signed, the person you've been running. I want you to write your own version of that letter this week. But we'll get to the challenge. Let's stay in the real world first. Let's talk about where fear actually lives in your life. Not the movie version, the Tuesday version, the quiet, specific, deeply familiar version that you've probably stopped noticing because it's been there so long. Let's go first with parenting. Here's one of the most important things I know about parenting and fear. Children do not catch our values from what we tell them. They catch them from watching what we do when we think nobody important is watching. Which means that fear you have not dealt with, the avoidance you have normalized, the risk you have never taken, the honest conversation you have never had, is being absorbed quietly and completely by the person in your house who is still deciding what the world is. A parent who never tries anything uncertain teaches their child that uncertainty is something to avoid. A parent who apologizes when they're wrong teaches their child that accountability is something you do, not just preach. A parent who attempts the difficult thing and fails and gets back up without making it a catastrophe teaches their child something that no amount of reassurance ever could. That fear is survivable. That trying and falling is not the worst outcome. That the worst outcome is looking back at a life spent on the safe side of every threshold. The most courageous parent decision you'll ever make is not a grand gesture. It is the private, daily decision to face your own fears so your child inherits courage instead of caution. Let them see you afraid. Let them see you go anyway. Let them see that those two things, being scared and being brave, are not mutually exclusive. That lesson, witnessed rather than taught, will outlive everything else you give them. Second, let's talk about finance. I want to talk about a specific kind of fear that has a specific and calculable cost. The fear of financial risk. Now, I want to be careful here because there is such a thing as healthy financial caution. Protecting what you have, building an emergency fund, not gambling your family's stability on a whim. These are not fear. These are intelligence. But there is a different thing, a subtler thing. And it looks like this. The business idea that has been fully formed in your head for 3 years but has never been written down because writing it down makes it real and real things can fail. The investment account that has never been opened because the market is complicated and what if you do it wrong. The salary negotiation that has never happened because what if they say no and the things are awkward and what if they think you're ungrateful. The side income that was never started because what if it doesn't work and then you've wasted the time and the money and the hope. All of this feel like caution. All of them are fear. And every year they continue, they compound. Just like the 1% growth we talk about in episode 1, except in the opposite direction. Every year of inaction is a year of missed opportunity cost, of flat savings, of capability that never got used. Economist Daniel Kahneman, who won the Nobel Prize for his work on human decision making, found that people feel pain of losing something roughly twice as intensely as they feel the pleasure of gaining the same thing. Twice as intensely. That is why fear of loss is so much louder than the pull of possibility. Our brains are wired to make avoiding loss feel more urgent than pursuing again. Which means that to make any meaningful financial move, to grow, to build, to risk anything, you will almost always have to act in direct defiance of your instincts. Not recklessly, not blindly, but deliberately, eyes open, with the knowledge that the discomfort you feel is your brain doing its ancient job. And that sometimes, in this case, its ancient job is wrong. Third, relationships. Of all the places fear lives, I think this is where it does its most lasting damage. The fear of being truly seen, not liked, not admired, not found attractive or impressive or useful. Seen. The real version, the complicated, contradictory, sometimes embarrassing, frequently uncertain actual human being underneath the performance. Most of us have built extraordinarily sophisticated systems for making sure that never happens. We are charming without being honest. We are present without being vulnerable. We are generous in ways that cost us nothing while protecting the things that actually matter from any real examination. We give people a version of ourselves that is close enough to feel real, but not so close that being rejected would actually hurt. And then we wonder why our most important relationships feel like they're conducted through glass. Here's the paradox at the heart of every deep human connection. The very thing that makes you most afraid of being seen, the part you think is too much, too broken, too inconsistent, too needy, too strange, is almost always the part that someone else recognizes and loves most. Because we connect through our shared imperfection, not through our curated highlights, not through the version we've edited for public consumption, through the honest admission of being human. The conversation you've been afraid to have with your partner, the friend you've never told the full truth to, the version of yourself you've never let anyone stay long enough to actually meet. The fear of being seen is the fear of being loved for who you actually are. And the only way through it is to let someone look. Last one, leadership. I've had conversations with a lot of leaders over the years, from boardrooms to classrooms to kitchen tables where someone is leading a family through something hard. And the most single bravest thing I have ever seen a leader do is not a bold strategy or a difficult pivot or a courageous public stand. It is walking into a room and saying, I don't know. I'm uncertain. I'm figuring this out. I need your help. The leaders who cannot do that are almost always being driven by fear. The specific, corrosive fear of being seen as insufficient, of losing authority if they admit they don't have all the answers, of the vulnerability that comes with any honest admission of not knowing. And the cost of that fear is enormous. It filters down through an entire team, an entire family, an entire organization. When the leader cannot be uncertain, nobody else can be uncertain. When the leader cannot be wrong, nobody else can admit they're wrong. And when nobody can be wrong, nobody can learn, nobody can grow, nobody can try anything genuinely new. A culture built on leaders' unspoken fear is a culture that is quietly suffocating. But the leader who says, I was wrong about that, let me rethink. I don't know the answer here. Who has a better one? I'm scared of this too, but I think we should try it anyway. That leader does something extraordinary. They make it safe to be human. And a place where it is safe to be human is a place where people give everything they have because they're not spending half their energy on protection. Your fear, face honestly, is not a leadership weakness. It is your greatest qualification. Your challenge this week is in 3 parts, and I want you to do all 3 in order before the week is out. The first is a question. Find a quiet moment, not in the shower, not in the car, where noise gives you somewhere to hide. Sitting still with nothing else and ask yourself, what is the one thing in my life that I am not doing? Not because I can't, not because the time isn't right, not because of any practical reason I've told myself, but because I am afraid. Just one thing, be honest. It already knows what is, even if you haven't said it out loud yet. The second is the letter. I want you to write a version of the one I read earlier, just for yourself. Nobody else needs to see it. Dear fear, what you want to say to it, what it has cost you, what you are deciding to do differently. It doesn't need to be eloquent. It doesn't need to be long. It needs to be honest. There is something that happens when you write fear down. When you give it a shape and put it on a page, it loses some of its power. Not all of it, but some. Enough. The third is an action. This week, I want you to take one single step toward the thing fear has been keeping you from. Not the whole journey, the first step only. Send the email, make the call, open the document, have 15 minutes of conversation, start the application, say the true thing to the person who deserves to hear it. Just the first step, because the first step is the entire battle. Everything after it is just momentum. Remember Eliot and the novel in the drawer? I want to tell you how that story ends. He wrote it at 43 years old. 12 years after he had first called it finished in his head, he sat down and wrote it. It took him 9 months. It was not perfect. He said that clearly. The real thing never matches the dream of it. Not exactly, and he had to grieve that gap while he was writing. But he wrote it. He told me that the morning he typed the last sentence, he sat for a long time without doing anything. And then he opened the drawer where the notebook had lived for 12 years. He put it in the recycling. Not because the dream had failed, because the real thing had replaced it. The real thing, imperfect, exposed, written in the face of fear and finished in spite of it, was sitting on his desk. You have a drawer somewhere. You know what's in it. It's time. That's episode 9. 9 conversations. And if I had to choose the one that I most needed someone to have with me at a particular point in my life, it would probably be this one. So if it landed somewhere important, I'm glad we got here. Share this episode with someone who has a drawer. You know who they are. The person who has been almost ready for years. The one has the talent and the dream and the very good reasons why now still isn't quite the time. Tell them the time is Tuesday. The time is now. The time is the same ordinary moment. It has always been and always will be. You just have to stop waiting for it to feel different. Next week, we're going to talk about something I think about every single day. Enough. The word, the concept, the question of when is enough actually enough. In work, in ambition, in parenting, in the relentless forward motion of a life that never quite seems to slow down and let you feel what you've already built. It is going to be a quiet episode, a still one. I think you need it after this one. I think I need it too. Until then, feel the fear, name it, write it down, and then, as gently and as bravely as you can, go anyway. Thank you for being here with me on the Better Life Project. If you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend and stay tuned for more conversations that inspire growth, purpose, and a better everyday life. Until next time, take care and keep moving forward.